Thank you, Reinard, for being with me today. Before we get started, could you just give a quick introduction of yourself?
Hi, Ali. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, my name is Reinard Grevin. I'm from Indonesia, and I'm currently living and working in Paris in a modeling agency called Women Management.
Okay, and what exactly is your position at Women's Management?
My position at Women Management would be a booker.
And what does a booker do?
My job as a booker is basically I am appointed to few amounts of girls, and my job is basically making sure that taking care of them, taking care of their career and their sometimes personal lives, because sometimes that coordinates. And just basically, yeah, making sure that they're meeting the right client, making sure that they're doing the right jobs, making sure guiding them, of course, because a lot of them they're very young and then they're just entering work life, and basically, yeah, guiding them, making sure that they're meeting the right client, working in the right jobs, and making sure that they're working well.
Okay, and so that sounds like obviously that's a lot of management. There's a lot of coordinating that you're in touch with a lot of different kinds of people all over the world. Can you be a little bit more precise on how languages play a part in your job?
Language is definitely most important. Already in the office, I always speak in franglais because I work with French colleagues, but then we're always coordinating stuff with our New York office or our Milan office, but also we have to coordinate stuff with the models and other agencies which are placed globally. Uh, and also, a lot of the models are not from France. And so it is important for us to even communicate with the girls to be speaking in English. And not only that, and sometimes even the young girls, it's their first time even being abroad, and they have very little amount of English or even speak no English at all. And then we have to have um, a certain kind of way to speak and communicate with them with this kind of language barrier. And it allows us also to really have to be able to speak different languages too. And so if you have the ability to speak other languages too, that is another extra plus.
Could Are there any other? Obviously, English is the number one priority, but what other languages are beneficial in your career?
Italians, because of course, the Italian market, as you know, is one of the biggest fashion capital as well. Portuguese, because as you know, there's a lot of models that comes from Brazil, China, surprisingly, because as you know, Chinese girls or the Chinese market, they're not the best English speaker. And so a lot of these girls, they just arrived in Europe. It's their first time probably being abroad, and then they have very limited word in English, and having a certain knowledge even in Chinese languages would be, just basic, like have you eaten, this and that, certain kind of basic stuff just makes them feel more at home being in a foreign country. And that changes a lot in the career, or even Russian. But usually like even European girls, they have a certain knowledge of English, and so that's not really a big problem, but mostly like, different countries that are in different continent than in Europe.
Okay, uh, and if anybody, so say they're graduating with their bachelor's degree this year in, for example, LEA, and that's a type of business degree in marketing, but also in applied languages, and they wanted to get some business experience and they really wanted to enter into this fashion industry, this fashion business, what advice would you give to these students that want to get experience and perhaps maybe someday do your job?
First, you have to have a certain amount of knowledge, of course, in fashion. You have to have full interest in fashion, watch a lot of different, there's a lot of different videos, documentaries in fashion, get into that. There's a lot of fashion books that you can get into, know a lot of different names. Knowing the names of the people that are working in the industry is a big thing. Knowing the top photographers, top models, so you have those references that we always use a lot in the fashion industry. But for you to get into the fashion industry, really just participate in any kind of fashion stuff that you can get on into, participating even in photo shoots, assisting a photographer, being a dresser backstage at a fashion show. You always have to start somewhere really, really small and then kind of work your way up and work your connections. And The easiest way, I think, the best way right now, and gratefully, there is Instagram. Instagram is the easiest way because then uh, it's also like a window to the clients to see your personal style, your creative side, making sure that your Instagram account has all these things that uh, expresses your creativity and your style identity as well. And also it allows you to meet up with different people in the industry. Just starting with different photographers, starting with different maybe magazines, asking them to participate if they can assist on certain things, and then work your way from there.
Well, so I hear you. I think in any industry you need to start making connections. But if I'm graduating from from Nantes, for example, where would I find, a job where I can assist a photographer who's looking for somebody that doesn't necessarily have any experience, or to be a dresser backstage? Is there a certain network besides Instagram that I could go on to that could help me kind of find these kind of jobs?
Yes, there's the website called Fashion Jobs. This is actually Fashion Jobs is a website where they all the fashion company in France and globally listed their jobs. Even our company as well looks for internships through that website. And of course also you can go knocking on the people's door. This is how I definitely found my job. I just went to different modeling agencies and knocked my way up the door and be like, "Hey, I'm looking for a job. Would you be interested in hiring me? Any positions?" And it's surprisingly because I think a lot of the people think that there's always this facade of fashion, this kind of cold or being very pretentious. But yet, people that are working, for me, even I find it very surprising because I always felt very, in the beginning, I always felt very like scared a little bit. But then in the end, I was so surprised of how nice actually a lot of the people, all of the people in fashion are. And they are very, very friendly people, and they're always looking for people in there. But of course, what you need to have while you're doing your job is tenacity because it's never an easy job. You always have to deal with a lot of stress, and you have to be able to communicate with different people that have different barriers of languages and all of that. So it makes it even more difficult. But then, of course, it's easier to enter, but then it's very hard to hold on to because it's a tough competition, and you need to have that tenacity.
Okay, so work hard, be motivated, love fashion.
Yeah, you definitely need to love fashion. Uh, Work after having working experiences in fashion, I just see a lot of people come and go, because it's very hard to handle because not only that, you have most of the time you have to deal with people with a lot of ego at a certain level. When you wanted to deal with different celebrities, when you want to deal with top models, when you want to deal with the top editor or the top stylist, these people have certain stature in their position, and so they have a certain level of ego sometimes, and you have to work your way to maneuver all of these things, which is not easy.
All right, so good management skills, be able
Good
to.
communication skill, because if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, that might ruins your career.
All right, well,
You have to say the right thing is always that's why language is super important, putting the right words in the right sentences.
thank you so much, Renard. I will include the information for the fashion. You said it was fashion jobs?
Fashion jobs, and definitely, of course, you can contact me if you're looking for a job on my Instagram too. I will
Okay.
be willing to help.
I'll include that information below. Thank you so much for your time, and have fun in the rest of the quarantine. All
Thanks so much, and keep yourself on too.
right, thanks. Bye.
Bye.